This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
For tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we discuss everything in the world of sports. As always, I'm Ben.
And I'm Alex.
And we are back here on a Monday recording this next episode. And we have a full action-packed show for you featuring week one of the NFL season.
Yeah.
It is going to be concluding tonight. We got a couple of Monday night games. I know you're excited. Steelers opening their season against the Redskins. I know you are excited, just as I was yesterday, as the Packers beat the Jacksonville Jaguars.
You're ruining it.
But, I mean, we'll get into that in the segment. We're going to be talking some college football as well. We have UFC over the weekend. We had boxing over the weekend, U.S. Open and tennis. Had a lot of great sporting events. Manchester Derby on Saturday. I mean, how could I forget that, of course, you know.
I mean, yeah.
So a lot of great things we will be covering in the show today. Going to be featuring a lot of football talk, though, and that's where we're going to start with the first segment.
Yeah, man, this is a really for a first week of football. This is a close finishes. You have starting with I'm sure you guys covered it on Friday, the Denver-Carolina game, 1 point difference. You have a 1 touchdown difference in Atlanta and Tampa Bay. You have a touchdown difference roughly in Buffalo, Baltimore. You have 4 points in Jacksonville. You have 5 points in Kansas City, 1 point in New Orleans, 1 point in the New York Jets game. You have 2 points in Seattle, 1 point with Dallas, 1 point with Indianapolis, and 2 points with Arizona.
Yeah, this was
Pretty
literally
much every game, but like the Houston game almost.
This was literally the most competitive week one, or really week we've seen in the NFL. Like you said, we had 4 1-point games. The only game of the whole entire weekend that was decided by double digits was the Browns and the Eagles game, which we won't talk about because I did think the Browns would win. So I don't even want to mention that. I don't want to start. Well, of course, we're going to. You know, Carson Wentz had quite an impressive performance.
He did, yeah. We'll cover him.
So we'll cover all the games. But, yeah, we had really the most competitive week we've seen, which is great for the neutral fan, great for the sport as well.
Yeah, so I'll give you the winners real quick. I probably should have done that when I was mentioning it. But Tampa Bay beat Atlanta at home behind 4 Jameis Winston touchdown passes, 31-24. Atlanta at home on that one. I kind of said it quick. Baltimore won one at home, 13-7, 2-7 over Buffalo. Like we said, Green Bay did win in Jacksonville, 27-23. Kansas City won a pretty good game when they came back from down quite a bit.
They're down 24-3 in the third quarter, came back in overtime.
Yeah, 33-27. Oakland Raiders got their first win of the year in a big way, going for 2 there at the end, 35-34 in New Orleans. The Jets lost to Cincinnati at home, 23-22. Excuse me. Like we said, the only double-digit win. Philadelphia Eagles won 1 at home. The first time a rookie quarterback has ever started a season opener for the Eagles. They won 29-10 over the RG3-led Cleveland Browns. Seattle did some Seattling, nothing really great in the entire game, and still escaped with a win over Miami at home in CenturyLink, 12-10. In one of the wackier finishes of the weekend, the Dallas Cowboys end up losing Dak Prescott's first start to the Giants in the division against the Giants. At home there in Jerry's World, 19-20. In another wacky, but more so just, good finish that I do want to say something about when we get there. It's more so about the team in general. Indianapolis lost one after taking the lead with under a minute left. Lost 39-35 on a late field goal. And then Arizona ended up losing to Jimmy Garoppolo's led Patriots with a missed field goal to end the game for the most part. No more time. They were going to stop the clock left. 23-21 there in Arizona. So what was one of the biggest standout games to you?
We had a lot of big standout performances.
This was a great first week. This really was.
Week one, I'd say the best win of the day for me is really the Raiders.
Yeah, I was one of the ones I got to watch. I was telling you, I was out of town this weekend, but I got to watch the whole beginning of that game, and it was a very competitive game from the get-go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Raiders are definitely the biggest winners of the week. I talked about it on Friday. I thought the Saints would win. I expected a shootout. I expected both teams to score in the 30s. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what we had. The Raiders really gutsy call there. So they score with under a minute left, and then they decide to go for 2. I loved the play call. I was watching the game at that moment. I said, regardless of if they even got it or not, I loved the play call because you literally had no momentum in this game. You're on the road. Drew Brees is lighting you up. He threw for 423 yards and 4 scores.
And it's back and forth, so it's not like somebody had a clear hold on the momentum either.
Right. So you have no momentum. You cannot stop Drew Brees. You come with a late drive to sort of get there to tie the game. If you kick the extra point, you go for 2 to obviously win. I love the decision to do that. I was not a big fan of the play call. I really don't like goal line fades because you really don't give yourself any chance to sort of maybe look a different way, take your second or third option. You're really going for it all or nothing.
In my opinion, it's really the matchup, and I feel like the receiver for one, and then how it's been going that game. I didn't get to see all the games, so I have no idea if Crabtree's really been working that corner all day. But Megatron, Des Bryant, I'm like, oh yeah, throw it to him. You know what I mean? That's your best player. Give the ball to him, kind of deal like that. But I get what you mean.
So Michael Crabtree did come down with it for the 2-point conversion to give them the lead.
It wasn't a great pass either.
It was really just a nice play.
That was a close one.
I'm like I said, I'm not a big fan of the goal line fade sort of play, but obviously it came down and they scored it. So I don't like it either. But I think the real story here was how the Raiders sort of made that gutsy decision to play call. I love it. They kind of got away with it a little bit because Michael Crabtree did get an excessive celebration penalty, which resulted in the Saints attempting, it was a really long field goal attempt 61, at the end of the day, 61. Yeah. But they obviously...
He had the leg. He just missed it a little bit.
Yeah, he was just off to the left. An undrafted rookie kicker, that's a lot of pressure on him week 1 in the NFL.
Well, he came in and beat out the starting kicker in a tryout, though. He weren't even trying to do so. He's happened to come in, just cover your bases, get your contacts in order, in case somebody goes down, and he straight was like, this kid's good.
So you're giving Drew Brees a little more room, a little more of a cushion sort of work there in the last minute. So they did get off a field goal attempt. Obviously, at the end of the day, it does not matter. What matters is the win. And I think the Raiders, that was the best win of the day. A lot of good wins, but I think the Raiders trying to really make a stamp on the AFC, trying to improve off last year, trying to be that one surprise playoff team. I felt like they needed this win a lot more than any other team. So I think that's the best one of the day.
Yeah, and their defense looked good at times, too. I think after a few weeks, they'll really get a nice run with them. I think they'll step up. They didn't obviously giving up 34 points. That's not a good performance by your defense. But I think, they started the game off with a strip sack fumble recovery. I think really that they'll kind of turn around and start being a better defense throughout this year. In my opinion, I think one of the bigger wins for the whole weekend, probably at the end of the day, was the Kansas City game was a real big one. Coming back from, like you said, 24 down. They ended up winning 33-27 in overtime. That was a really good game. Alex Smith led them back. It's great for a team that started real bad last year but ended strongly, with 11 straight wins. You don't want to, push it to that this year, you know what I mean? And then I would say probably the New England-Arizona game. I would say both the primetime games on, the Thursday night game and this game were really competitive. Really, obviously you had 2 points and 1 point in each of those games in terms of a difference maker. It was really the whole game. It was just a really well-played game, and I think importance-wise, it was a game New England needed to win because it was definitely their hardest of the 4 games without Tom Brady.
Absolutely. I felt like the Cardinals were going to win the game. I thought that originally was a 9.5 point spread that went down to 8. I thought that was kind of a little too much. I felt like they would keep it close. Think about it, this is the Patriots. They've won at least 10 games for 15 years now.
Oh, yeah.
The one season Tom Brady was out, they had Matt Castle, who led them to 11-5. And obviously, you look at Matt Castle now, career backup really. So I felt like it's really that Patriots system is what makes them so good and so dominant. And I feel like Jimmy Garoppolo would still at least compete. I feel like he wouldn't go in there and totally look terrible. And he played really well. He had 264 yards. He had 1 touchdown. He did lose 1 fumble, so he did have 1 turnover. But he did not play terrible. He looked really poised, looked like a good leader. And obviously they got a break at the end. The Cardinals missed a 41-yard field goal with about 40 seconds left.
Yeah.
But they went on the road, going across country. Always tough to do that. And come out on top. Now they have 3 straight home games. Dolphins next week. I felt like they could maybe go 3-1 without Brady, and obviously I think this was their hardest test. So I think for sure they're going to go at least 3-1. Maybe they'll go 4-0.
Maybe the Bills is the other tough one, but I agree with you. If there's one moment from this weekend before we preview the next 2 games, if there's like one moment, is there a moment that sticks out to you? It can be a play, it can be any singular moment. I have 2 of them.
Okay, you go first because I'm not
I'll go one
really sure where you're going because I don't want to steal your thunder here.
Okay,
you know
no worries. So my first one was Victor Cruz's first touchdown in over almost 3 years now. He had a touchdown in the Giants game. There's an interview afterwards, and they're like, "Did you plan on dancing when you got in there to show like you're back?" And he goes, "It's just a reaction. It's a thing of habit, you know. When I score, I just
every
do
time
it."
he does the salsa dance,
Yeah,
you knew it was coming.
Yeah, he said it wasn't intentional. It's just like riding a bike, you know. I just did it, kind of thing like that. So you know, moments, something that stood out to you, like, okay, that was pretty cool, you know, like that's a cool moment. Something like that stand out.
I don't know. I maybe DeMarco Murray's first touchdown, how he sort of dove and flipped into the end zone. That reminded me kind of a Jerome Simpson-esque. Like, obviously, he didn't land or
like,
anything.
like Derek Carr's flip.
Right. So I thought that was nice. I guess I can say maybe the Lions on the road. Andrew Luck coming back. They score at the end. Obviously, Matthew Stafford leads them down. They get a field goal, then they get the safety on the return. Obviously, they're trying to pull off a Cal Stanford-esque 20 million laterals, and they get a safety as it goes out the end zone.
All they were doing was going backwards.
So maybe I'll say Detroit going on the road.
Yeah.
Good win. You know, I feel like that was a good win. You have to try and compete. You know, the NFC North, only the Bears lost, so you have 3 teams at 1-0. So I didn't expect the Lions to win this game. Matthew Stafford played great.
I had the Colts winning.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford played great without Calvin Johnson. So
he's got a pretty deep receiving core.
So I guess I could say Detroit's win. That was probably. I mean, I feel like there was a lot of surprising things here. I felt like that was probably the one game I didn't see happening. 39-35, that shootout like that.
Yeah, you know, I mean, that was up in the air too because I have no idea. That is, I did say I wanted to mention something too. When are the Colts going to put a team around Andrew Luck? When are they going to give him a defense? When are they going to get? That's what I mean. When are they going to give him a defense? You know, it's like Peyton Manning all over again. Give the guy some defensive playmakers.
And you'd think they would have a better defense. Obviously, Chuck Pagano, a longtime defensive coordinator, think about what he did with the Ravens all those years.
You think philosophy-wise, you'd at least want to address the defense.
Right. You would think you'd have a defensive mentality with a defensive-minded coach for the last 5 years now, but it seems like for the last 5 years, you haven't had a successful defense. And like you mentioned, give Andrew Luck. He obviously has a lot of offensive playmakers.
Yeah,
think about Dante Moncrief, T.Y. Hilton.
Frank Gore played well.
Frank Gore, even at running back.
Dwayne Allen was the highest scoring tight end in fantasy football yesterday.
So, and then you just have no defense there to sort of build around.
Yeah, it's almost like Rex Ryan. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You know, they wanted to draft the star players, and he wanted to draft corners, and so who knows? You know, he wanted to go defense. You know, so who knows if that's the same thing with Pagano? Who knows if he wants defense and otherwise? You know, another moment that stood out to me, one of the last ones I'd say is. Carson Wentz's first touchdown pass, a beautiful touchdown pass. For somebody who was a third-string quarterback at the start of, or the end of the preseason, you know what I mean? And in a flash became the starter. You know, like I said, first rookie to ever start for the Eagles on opening day. Obviously would make them the first winner of an opening day as a rookie for the Eagles. He played at home, you know. He immediately justified, at least for week 1, you know, he could literally go down the hole from here. But if he plays like this the rest of the year, that justifies everything you gave up for him. And then flip-flop, too, you know, you play the Cleveland Browns, who gave up that spot in which he was drafted and had a quarterback, RG3. He didn't play badly, but it was more RG3 stuff. You know, he ran well and he got out of bounds, and then he ran right into a hard hit.
He took one shot.
That sprained his shoulder. So it's more of the same. You know, are you, like, kicking yourselves because you gave up this potential guy? You know, all this stuff. I just think it was a beautiful touchdown pass. The second one was just as pretty. You know, it was nice to see. I mean, definitely of the two, you didn't think it was going to be him who was starting week 1 above Goff. And literally you go from the third quarterback to the starting quarterback. Goff went from the presumed starter to inactive tonight. So
exactly. I was going to say that. I felt like 2 things with Wentz. Obviously, I predicted him to struggle. I thought the Browns would win this game. Obviously, I'm never going to bet the Browns ever again. You know, they're that train wreck in Cleveland right now. Okay, I'm sticking away from them forever. But Carson Wentz played great. You mentioned 278 yards, 2 scores. Jordan Matthews looked really good. He really struggled last year, a year when he was expected to kind of break out.
That's the quarterback issue, too.
So Wentz, obviously, like you mentioned one game, who knows? But you have to say 2 things. Philadelphia came away with 2 wins here. 1-0, obviously, on the record.
Yeah.
And they're a step ahead of L.A. right now. Jared Goff is going to be wearing a
If you
hoodie.
look at it that way.
Jared Goff is going to be wearing a hoodie tonight. He's not even active.
In the same,
Carson Wentz plays great.
In the same relation, though, I mean, like I told Jeremiah on the football show, I want to say maybe Thursday, or whenever this was announced when he was a starter. If you told me, two of the starting quarterbacks in a week one were rookies, I'd go, okay, Goff, and I would have to sit and think, I don't know who the second one would be because I didn't think it'd be Wentz. Definitely didn't think it'd be Dak Prescott.
No.
I mean, I would be like, oh, maybe Trevon Boykin. Did Russell Wilson get hurt? Kind of deal like that.
Well, Russell Wilson.
You know what I mean? He
actually,
did get hurt,
there are doubts of Russell Wilson's status for
Yeah,
next
he
week.
sprained
He
his
got the ankle
ankle.
injury, so who
But you
knows?
know what I mean? I mean purely like I don't know who they would be. It definitely wasn't Wentz. Definitely wasn't Dak. So I don't know if you can really. I mean, yes, I get what you mean, but it's at the same time your job is to win football games, not compare like your draft picks in the same sense. But I mean, Goff's gonna start this year. It's the same thing with the Eagles. They said if they didn't trade their starting quarterback, it's not like Wentz was going to start, right away.
I think Paxton Lynch starts this year for Denver.
We'll see. I mean, you guys obviously got to talk about the Denver game a bit, and Trevor played well. Both those picks, I would say, the first one, that's not really his fault. The second one, you got to know when to not throw that when you're getting tackled like that. I mean, he did get touched. He did get hit. Again, it's not neither of them are fully on him. You know what I mean? But he played well. He did. And again, you only do so much with a defense like that. Exactly. I get what you mean, though. I could see him starting a game this year. It really depends on how that goes because he is the second quarterback on the roster. So,
all right, so we have two games tonight. Obviously, the game you have penciled in on your schedule. The Pittsburgh Steelers open up on the road in the nation's capital against the Washington Redskins. And then following that, we have a West Coast battle. We have the L.A. Rams in San Francisco, Santa Clara, to be exact, against the 49ers. Previewing tonight's games, I think I'll take Pittsburgh, and I will take San Francisco.
Okay. So I'm probably going to say Pittsburgh and the Rams, only because I feel like the Rams are more complete in the sense of their defense, and they know what they have with their offense. They're not going to push it in the sense of you do what you do well, and that's still something that Niners haven't seemed like. But then again, we haven't seen a full game from them yet. But I was telling Jeremiah this, and something that, and I hope I don't want to sound like a homer in this aspect. I just want to, I feel like this would be the case for any team that you're a fan of. As a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I feel like it is the most frustrating thing ever. You have this arguably best offense on paper in the last decade of a team, right? You have Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, Wheaton, Ladarius Green. Who are you going to stop kind of deal, right? Le'Veon Bell suspended for the first 3 games. Martavis Bryant suspended for the entire year.
Yes.
Ladarius Green's on the PUP list until week 6, which that's fine with me. I get it, right? Marcus Wheaton's hurt. He's not playing tonight. You have D'Angelo, you have Ben, and you have Brown, which is still more than a lot of teams have, right? On the defensive side, second-round pick from last year, Stanquez Golson was the first real big pick you had to beef up your secondary. Out all last year. PUP list this year. Bud Dupree, first-round pick from last year. Out PUP list. Until the sixth week this week, right? Or this year. It is so... Marquise Pouncey last year. Hurt the entire year. It is so frustrating to be hyped up for this team every year for something to happen and just none of them be on the field with each other.
It's definitely frustrating. Injuries are a part of the game.
Yeah, I understand those.
Especially to your marquee guys, So yeah. I feel you there, buddy. I feel you.
It's just frustrating, I just had to get that off my chest. I don't know really with the Pittsburgh-Washington team game. I am a realist. You know what I mean? I don't always say, they're going to win no matter what. I do understand this is a team that won the division last year. They do have a decent defense, and their offense isn't bad. Like I said, without Marcus Wheaton, it's Ben, D'Angelo, Brown, and then you have Eli Rogers, who's he's a smaller slot guy. You have him coming in. Darius Hayward-Bay. You have third round pick Sammy Coates from Auburn, who played well in the preseason. You have Jesse James, who I think is better than people give him credit for, but again, he's unknown. So if you're not really a Steeler fan, you don't know much about him in that aspect. It's not a cut and dry win like some people may look at it. You know what I mean? If the offense struggles, then you're in a position to, they have a good defense. They have Josh Norman. They have Brashad Breeland. Ryan Kerrigan's always been a good player on the outside there. They're not exactly a shutdown win. Now, I'd like to think they can win, but I don't know.
I think it'll be a close game. I really do like Kirk Cousins.
I've always liked Kirk Cousins.
A lot of people are sort of thinking 1 year wonder. I really don't think that's the case. He had the highest completion percentage of any quarterback in the league last year.
Mm-hmm.
I do like him. He has good targets around him. Deshaun Jackson, Jordan Reed's one of the top tight ends. Matt Jones is expected to maybe have a breakout year at running back without Alfred Morris there. Good receiving back as well as Matt Jones. So I do expect a close game. I just think the leadership and the experience of the Steelers kind of outweighs everything.
I think, too, the issue, too, if you look at in terms of, with the Steelers in this game, too, is their defense isn't amazing. It's definitely better. They have a really good front seven when all are healthy. And Hayward is playing. He sustained a high ankle sprain in week 3 of the preseason. Ryan Shazier is one of the best up-and-coming linebackers in the league. He's the fastest at that. He ran a 4.3 in his 40 in his pro day and his combine. Timmons is still good. You have young, good players, right? They have always struggled at guarding athletic tight ends. So Jordan Reed's one of the best in the game at that. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I'm very excited. That game starts at 4:10. I don't have to wait that long, and I'm happy.
There you go.
In relation to tonight's game, before we take our last break, like I said, we kind of know what we're getting from both of these teams. You have Case Keenum leading the offense. Nothing, groundbreaking there. But the defense, I would say, is more sound than the Niners, only because the Niners have good pieces, but so much about that team is unknown. I would say it's really going to come down to the offense of the Niners. Both the defense are very similar. They're not amazing, but they're good. They can get turnovers and such. I would say LA's special teams is a little bit better. But, yeah, it's going to come down to the offense of the Niners, I feel like. Is Blaine Gabbert going to be able to score and move the ball? We saw a lot of inconsistency from that offense in the preseason. So it'll definitely be interesting. That game starts at 7:20 tonight, 10:20 Eastern time. And I'm sorry, I did say 4:10. That's here on the West Coast. It's 7:10 on the East Coast twice. Mountain time, all that other stuff. I can't help you. I'm sorry.
You can do the math yourself. So Mountain time is an hour ahead, Alex, of us. And then Central's 2.
So 5:10, and that sucks. 11:20. Oh wait, no, sorry. From here, 8:20.
Yeah. So I talked about it on Friday with Jeremiah. I feel like it's almost a crime that either the Rams or the 49ers get to start 1-0. I feel like these are going to be. I think these are going to be 2 of the worst teams in the NFC.
I definitely think the Rams are going to have a better record this year because and that's another thing. They always play well in the division. Always. They're always a division.
That's true.
Even when the Niners are good, they were always a division ruiner. They swept the Seahawks last year, I think. Or they at least beat them one, but they've beaten them at least once the last few seasons.
So you know what? I will actually take the Niners this game. Kind of a little surprise here. I don't have much confidence in that pick, but I'm going to go out on a limb here. Mm-hmm. They are at home. Think about how they opened up on Monday night last year against Minnesota. They absolutely trounced them, and they were a playoff team. So
so it's weird. You're definitely a different team in week 1 than you are like week 10. So.
Of course. So I expect the Niners to run the ball a lot. Think about Carlos Hyde.
Is he playing? I know he was hurt. He's playing.
He will play tonight.
Okay.
The Niners up-tempo offense, with Chip Kelly coming in, I think they do just enough to get it done. When you look at the Rams, obviously you have to lock down Todd Gurley, and then from there on, you don't have too many playmakers.
He definitely looked good in the preseason.
Tavon Austin has been a disappointment since the Rams drafted him.
We did get a big contract extension, 60-something, $61 million.
He's been a disappointment, though.
He's been a disappointment because they they use him. Well, they kind of do need to. They need to use him as the number 1 receiver. He's not that. And that's no knock on him. That's not what he is. He's a number 1 receiver in the sense of the way he plays and the skill set he has, but he's better solidified as somebody who has somebody to take targets off of him. That's their next investment. They need to go for a big receiver. I don't mean big like tall. I mean just a big playmaker.
Big name.
Somebody to take some of the pressure off of him.
Yeah, so I will take the Niners, and I'll say a close, low-scoring game. I'll say 20-17. Something
that's low scoring.
Low-scoring.
Obviously I'm going with Pittsburgh, and that's just because I do think they can win this game, not because of me being a fan. I do believe they can win this game. And then
the Steelers as well.
Yeah, and then LA. I think I'm going to go with LA.
All right, buddy. You think we're ready for our first break?
Yeah, ready for our first break. We come back. We're going to update you on the AP Top 25 poll that recently came out. They usually come out Sunday, Monday-ish. So we have that for you, and then we'll kind of recap some of the notable, just so we're quicker on it, some of the notable college football games, mainly the ranked opponents and so on and so forth. Then we'll take our last break there. So we'll be right back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching.
Hey!
The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be, visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And we're back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. So what we're going to do now is update you on the new AP Top 25 poll and kind of just cover that top 10 of games this weekend. So Alabama did not move, obviously, sitting there at number 1, just like they have been since the end of last year. Florida State moved up from 3 to 2. Ohio State went to 3 from their 4 spot last week. Michigan went up 5 to 4. Now you say, well, why is all this happening? You know, all these teams they won, didn't they? Well, Clemson dropped from 2 to 5.
Yeah, definitely a disappointing result. They beat Troy. Mm-hmm. Not
of old years. Yes.
Not the Gladiator Troy, the college Troy. They beat them 30-24. So a disappointing result. It seems like ever since we've had the addition of the college football playoff these last few years now, it seems like with the AP Top 25 polls, they're taking a lot of these polls kind of a week-to-week basis as opposed to your whole sort of season slate.
It's hard to look at it really until week 6, I find.
But if you have like a really bad performance, although you may win, you're going to drop. Like I was talking about this with my dad and my brother. It's like in the NFL, it's about your record. A win is a win. Like think about some of the ugly wins yesterday. Think about the Seahawks over the Dolphins. They win 12-10. They score a touchdown with 30 seconds left to give them the lead. Ugly win. If Clemson were to do that against Troy, obviously Clemson won by 6. That wasn't the case. But if Clemson were to do that against Troy, they would have went from 2 to like 10. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it was like
it's
a one.
Ugly wins result in really bad drops in the top 25 poll. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you have to almost win convincingly. I realize it's only week 2. You know, we're only 2 weeks into this thing. So if Clemson keep winning, if they beat Florida State, they'll be there right at the end. Don't worry. But it's like you kind of have to be on your A game almost every single game now.
And now somebody else has to lose.
Right. So, I mean, there were other disappointing teams. You know, think about Georgia. They were ranked number 9.
Yeah.
They dropped to 16 because they beat Nichols by 2. They beat them 28-26. So, disappointing results. Even if it's a win, you're going to drop in those rankings, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. I mean, that's how college football is. It's crazy that way. To finish out the top 10, 6 through 8 did stay the same: Houston, Stanford, and Washington. Wisconsin moved up 1 from 10 to 9, and then Louisville jumped into the top 10 from 13. Some teams that did drop, like you said, yes. Obviously, Georgia dropped from 9 to 16, so that's a big one. Not a lot of drops this week, though, as opposed to the prior week, for sure. I mean, we had more moving up than anything, and then we have 2 unranked jumping in there now. Ranked 24 Arkansas, who you said did get a win this week, a big win, and 23 Florida now, both jumping into the rankings again.
Yeah, Arkansas goes on the road and beats number 15 ranked TCU 41-38 in double overtime. Definitely a big win. Think about the SEC. In week 1, they were 7 for 7. A lot better this week. A big win over here, Arkansas over TCU. TCU drops completely out of the rankings. Think about Tennessee rebounding really strongly at the Battle of Bristol Motor Speedway. 150,000 fans.
That's crazy.
They beat Virginia Tech 45-24. Tennessee was down 14-0 in this game, so they came from behind and absolutely dismantled Virginia Tech. So Tennessee, a good, solid win. They didn't do much moving up. They only moved up 2 spots from 17 to 15, but definitely a big win coming back from week 1, barely escaping by Appalachian State. So a big win for them as well. So, I mean, that was really the big upset was Arkansas over TCU. Not much, moving. A lot of week 2 games were kind of scheduled against lesser opponents when they scheduled such good opponents week 1. So
yeah.
We'll have to preview week 3 as it happens. We have some good matchups this week. Florida State, Louisville, Oklahoma, Ohio State. So that'll be later in the week. But, not much movement here. Like we mentioned, week 3 college football poll doesn't really mean too much.
You shouldn't look too much into it.
Exactly. We haven't even got into really the conference schedule yet. That's where really the bulk of these rankings are going to come from, how you do in conference play. So Not much moving, but, it's definitely something worth talking about. So,
all right, let's take our last break. I know that was quick, but let's take our last break. We'll come back. We'll update you guys on this finals weekend in the U.S. Open. A little bit of news there around the sports world, and we'll leave for the day. So we'll be right back, Ben and I, here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
We are back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Just going to recap a few things over the weekend. We had UFC, we had boxing, we had the U.S. Open, Manchester Derby, a lot of great things. So we'll lead off here with the U.S. Open. We have the new number 1 ranked tennis player, Angelique Kerber. She's from Germany. She is the oldest woman to be ever ranked number 1. She wins the U.S. Open. She beats...
How old is she?
How old is she? I really don't know.
I'll look
think
that
we'll
up. I'll look that up while you
look that
finish.
up.
Yeah, while you finish what you're doing, I'll look that up.
Yeah, we will have to look that up. So she obviously wins the U.S. Open. Definitely a great accomplishment for her. Going into the game, she was already going to be named the new number 1 as of today, with Serena Williams losing in the semifinals. So
now, she's the oldest to be ranked that for the first time?
Yes.
Okay, 28.
Okay.
I was going to say, because I know Serena's older.
Right. No, I'm not saying like of all
Ranked
time.
number 1 for the first
For
time.
Yes, like
Gotcha.
the oldest to be ranked number 1 for the first time at her age.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. So she beats Pliskova for the U.S. Open crown on the women's side. And then in the men's side, we had a little bit of an upset.
Well, hey, hold on. Whoa. We got to tell people who Pliskova beat.
Well, yeah, she beat Serena Williams.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, that's a big deal.
Yeah, Serena Williams
It's an
kind
upset.
of...
Number 10 over number 1?
She kind of had a little bit of a knee injury. She kind of struggled her way through the semifinals. So, obviously, a disappointment for Serena.
Yeah.
She had kind of a disappointing year, I would say, winning only one major. So.
Yeah. And then Wozniacki, even though, like, I've mentioned this plenty of times, even though she's not ranked, she's not an easy defeat.
Yeah,
so.
for her to get to the semifinals, she lost to Angelique Kerber. I think that's still a very good accomplishment. She wasn't even ranked. You know what I mean? She's sort of trying to come back and revitalize her career.
She's not an easy win at all anymore, to say the least. So, all right, moving to the men.
Yes, on the men's side, we had another upset. Obviously, we had Stan Wawrinka from Switzerland, number 3 seed. He goes in and defeats world's number 1, Novak Djokovic, in 4 sets. It's Wawrinka's 3rd major title, first U.S. Open.
And Djokovic, I mentioned this on the Thursday sports show, going into his match against Monfils from France, the 10th ranked player in the world. He had two forfeits in this tournament.
Yeah, so he was rested.
He was rested up until Tsonga, which was a deep, that was a deep kind of game for him. Yeah, Monfils retired as well, so he was rested for sure. But yeah, Wawrinka played well. He really did. And
I
expected
Djokovic to win, but Wawrinka comes in and defeats him, so I'm wrong again as usual. But anyways, one thing I was not wrong about on Saturday, which I mentioned on the Friday episode of the show,
you were dead right about it.
It's how I felt CM Punk would do. Phil Brooks, CM Punk, in his first UFC bout. I felt like he would get tapped out in the first round, and that's exactly what Mickey Gall did. So he wins via rear naked choke, 2 minutes and 14 seconds in. Come on, seriously, does CM Punk even is he even gonna deserve to be in the UFC? Like, do you think he will get a second UFC fight? Come on.
He will. He will, purely because people watch that, and then the speech he gave at the end. This was
literally a joke. Like, maybe if he's fighting in a lesser sort of brand, not UFC, I could see him maybe, coming out and trying to be serious about fighting. But I kind of laugh because I look at this result and I was like, come on, really? Like,
well, I think because purely of what he said at the end, people want to see this guy win. They'll keep watching because what if he finally wins? You know what I mean?
I mean, who knows? But and then in the main event on UFC 203, we had Stipe Miocic defending his heavyweight championship against Alistair Overeem, and Miocic successfully defends. He wins via KO in 4 minutes and 27 seconds of the first round. So still the champion yet again. So that's definitely a great accomplishment for Miocic, defending his title. Fabricio Verdum beat Travis Brown in the sort of co-main event by unanimous decision. I think Verdum will now get a shot at Miocic again. He's a former heavyweight champion himself, Fabricio Verdum. So I think that's probably going to be next in the heavyweight division as far as the titles go. And then in boxing, we had Triple G knocking out Kell Brook via TKO in the 5th round. Get this, Alex.
What?
Kell Brook's trainer literally throws in the white towel in the 5th round.
You get what you got to do.
And you know what? Kell Brook actually stands by his trainer. He says, quote, "He saved my life by throwing in the towel." So if you look at it, Kell Brook had his eye socket broken. Mm-hmm. He got beat up pretty good. He landed some shots against Triple G. So maybe eventually if he had not gotten pretty jacked up with his eye, maybe he would have had a chance in the later rounds. Who knows? But he took quite a beating. He wasn't really standing well. His trainer noticed it, realized it, and threw in the towel for him. So now everyone in the boxing world is kind of looking at, will Triple G fight Canelo Alvarez next? That's like the big bout a lot of people want to see. But
I like that.
But obviously they have like weight differences, so they'll have to sort of meet at a catch weight or something. We'll have to see on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly here, Alex, I know this is something you're not going to be too happy about, but Manchester City defeat Manchester United 2-1 on Saturday in the Manchester Derby. Goals from Kevin De Bruyne and Kelechi Iheanacho.
Also a loser.
And then Zlatan Ibrahimovic scores for
man.
United. So we will be breaking that down more on the soccer show, which we will record next. But for the sports show, I think this is going to be it for the episode.
Yeah, that's all for us. As always, you guys can find us on our website, gsmcpodcast.com, as well as on YouTube and Facebook at the GSMC Sports Podcast. You can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Stitcher if you search GSMC Sports. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter, GSMC_sports. As always, I'd like to thank you guys for listening. I am Alex.
I'm Ben.
And we will see you guys on our next sports show. I'll be back tomorrow. Ben will be back on Wednesday. You guys be good out there. We'll see you on the flippity flip.
Go back.